Absolutely fantastic, guys. It's so impressive to see your presentation and delivery skills at this stage of your career. So massive kudos and round of applause to each of you, and thank you for the audience. To hopefully you've all been taking notes and listening to these excellent speakers. I'm just going to kick off with a question. How do you handle the no? Because all day, every day, you're getting no's. How do you actually handle the no psychologically, but also in the actual conversation? How do you handle the no? Who wants to take that first?
Happy to.
Oh, go on.
So I think it's the type of no, right? So and who did I learn this from? I think it's Jerry Hill, who you should follow on LinkedIn. There's a no, but there's a no never, a no not now, and a no not me. So it's just understanding which bucket that falls into, because ultimately the follow-ups that come from some of the no's are your future pipeline that you're going to be building up next quarter. So sometimes I quite like the no, because I know it's someone to speak to.
Anyone else?
I think from my answer would be more from a psychological perspective, as you mentioned, James. It's just a case of, and it's so easy to say, but it's just a case of staying resilient, because that for every no there is a yes. But also one of my mentors here at Confluent, he's one of the things he said to me is that the sale starts when someone says no. That is your green light, and kind of look at it as a green light. And if someone says no, kind of use that as a motivation. It depends on you as a person, because some people are motivated by negative reinforcement, some people are motivated by positive reinforcement. But just try and one of the things that I tend to do is, if I get a no or a rejection or whatever it may be, try and look at the positives, not necessarily just from that one call, but the positives in your kind of sales day and what you achieved during that time, during that day. And then at the end of the day, just think to yourself, okay, well, I had one no, I had 5 no's, or however many no's you've had. However, I've achieved this. I've booked 2 meetings that equal in at 1.2 million and at PG or whatever, So just kind of staying positive is key. And very quickly on that as well, it's all about mindset. Sales is all about mindset from what I've seen as an SDR, purely because, as soon as you get into that negative mindset, your whole week is ruined, your whole day is ruined, your whole, it could be your month that's ruined. You just need to pick yourself up and just keep going, and remember that everyone else is going through the exact same thing. And if this was easy, everyone would be doing this, but it's not. So just remember.
Yeah, absolutely right. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, but they don't want to, and they're not going to have the joys of the spoils that you're going to have in your careers ahead of you. Looking forward to tracking where you all end up. So I've got a couple of questions coming through. Do ask questions in the Q&A or in the chat, wherever you would like to. This is for those of you that focus on enterprise prospecting. How do you decide how many contacts to reach out to in an enterprise account? Do you have a set amount that you go after, or do you select individual contacts on a week-by-week basis? How do you decide that? That's for the enterprise SDRs. That's from Jordan.
It's a good point, and I would say that I'm only just moving into this space at SEDNA, but it's often, it depends on whether this account is completely new to you as a company, or whether you've already got some foot in the door. Because, as Sebastian said, you can go out and have a massive range of contacts in an account, up to 60, like Seb said, or beyond, whatever it might be. But if you have a number of initial relationships already built up, whether or not there's been any business done there, I think one of the best things is using those ongoing relationships and branching out from them. So using neighboring teams, neighboring departments or business units, and sort of creating a web of context from them. So if you can take, 2 or 3 existing relationships you have with the account and use them to get intros into, 4 or 5 new contacts each, you're then starting to get not only 15, 20 contacts, but actually 15, 20 contacts who are going to be more receptive to having a conversation with you and hopefully finding a first route in or a next expansion in that account. But again, like I said, a relatively new topic for me. So some of you more experienced enterprise reps may have other opinions.
Anyone else? I know, Sebastian, you talked about it, but how did you actually come up with that number?
I think, it's exact same thing as Sean. I typically always start around 50 to 60 mark when I'm mapping out an account. But that's not to say, I'm going to put 60 people into a sequence every single time. It depends on the success I have. So if I'm targeting, say, 20 people a day and I get some responses on the first day, just like Sean says, I'm going to use the power of those conversations I've had. And I may be fine getting a few meetings just within those individuals. So I'd always start big and then, and then if you go down, that's absolutely fine. And I go with around the 50 to 60 mark because the organizations I target are so big. So typically in my case, the data departments are also very large. So I'd always start at the top. So again, like to people at the C level, and then go down to the actual business users. Then obviously if I get in at the top at the start, then I'm not necessarily going to be targeting those business users straight away, because those will naturally come into the conversation in those lunch and learn sessions, what I try and plan.
I think also, just going back on Seb's point as well, 50, 60 for large enterprise accounts for sure. For smaller enterprise accounts, it depends on what's classed as enterprise within your organization. So, it could be revenue, could be, the amount of employees. If it's revenue, sometimes it could be an organization that has, 100 people in the UK that sit within IT, for example. If you're selling to the IT teams, you're not going to really try and spray and pray to all of them. So I'll put it in the chat, but something that's worked really well for me, and it's just a consistent process that I do every single day with every single account, is tiering. So tier A and tier B prospects. Tier A would be, your C levels, your heads of, your directors almost. So really, really specific people you want to be targeting, super personalized outreach, whether that's email, cold call, whatever it may be. And then tier B would be, just whoever you can find, who you feel like will be relevant, who you feel like will understand your language. Just almost, I wouldn't say spray and pray, but more of a generic approach just to get people, in that list, because you're not always going to have emails that work. You're not always going to have numbers that work. So tiering prospects usually works really well. And again, depends on the account. But I'd say never do more than around 8 prospects for tier A, because they take a while, and you'd rather do something super, super personalized.
Great, thank you for sharing. Question here from Paul Donarci: are switchboards dead? What success do you have with switchboards?
No, absolutely not. Okay,
go on, give us your view, Sebastian, first.
It's not, because I think it's more about how many times you call, right? So some people, especially I know, they've called, they bring some switchboard, and they get a no at the start of the week, and it's just, I'm not calling a switchboard again. It's the exact same thing in recruitment. You need to call and just sound very confident, very assertive. I typically just use, when I call, hi, I'm looking for James, can you put me through now? Right? And it sounds very important, like you've already spoken to him before. I think it's just all about the way you come across. If you ring a switchboard and you're very nervous and you're very shy, they're going to, they're not stupid. They will know exactly what this is. If you call up very confident, we've already spoken before, we've already seen some interest before, maybe even a little white lie, you have a good chance you get put through. That'll be my advice. I
agree, Seb. Switchboards are not dead. However, I think you just need to mirror the person who's on the other line. If you're going to go in aggressively and it's just a nice lady who's having a super good day, you don't want to kind of ruin their mood. But also, I think it depends how you approach the question. So whether or not you're speaking directly. I don't know if I can just hear loads of background.
Yeah, I can hear.
One of the things that has worked really well for me is leveraging PAs. So going through switchboards and not asking for the actual C-level executive that you want to speak to, but asking to speak to the PA or PA's contact details works really well. Then speaking to the PA and then kind of going through the PA works really well usually, and building up that relationship that way.
Yeah, I agree with that actually, Justa, as well, because we don't want to pitch or present to kind of PAs or gatekeepers or something like that, but actually they can be really amazing sources of knowledge about the business and about the way it works. So if you do get, like you said, one that's receptive and open to having a conversation, it can be really great to actually explore a little bit and use that as a chance to map out the department or the account a little bit and say, hey, look, I'm looking to have a conversation around this. Would the original contact be the right person to talk to about that, or is there someone that you think is better, empowers them and actually helps you kind of be more targeted in what you're trying to do?
I would kind of, I suppose, to slightly give a contrary opinion, I'd say that if you sort of have a mobile or sort of an email address available that's sort of direct to the content to the contact you're trying to sort of get in touch with, it's obviously better to kind of have that one touch point as opposed to sort of multiple touch points. I wouldn't say that the switchboard is dead, but it's obviously going to take you, I would say, slightly longer to get to the sort of end goal, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely, I guess, a multi-channel approach. But obviously, it also depends on what kind of tools your sales team are using, what technology you have access to. From being in sort of, I guess, two roles, one not having access to kind of direct dials, and then now obviously at Cognism, we have quite a large coverage. So yeah, it's useful to be able to get through to the person you want to speak to straight away.
All right, I'm going to ask just one final question, and then we're going to head into the networking. So there's been a lot of talk today about the importance of mentors and people championing you and improving your personal brand within your organization. Can you just tell us how you found your mentor?
I can start with this one. So obviously I've only just kind of joined, I'm in my 3rd month, and Varicent, we're lucky enough that they kind of set that up in a process. So you've got a mentor, you've got a peer who's also kind of same level as you, maybe been there a few more months. So if there is people in your company who are kind of only a couple months more into the business than you are, I definitely reach out to them, because they're just kind of that couple months ahead of you. And so they've been there, done that, and they can kind of offer you what are the tips and what not to do kind of thing. And obviously everyone's got their AEs, and kind of like, I think Justa was saying, you kind of go, you find your champion and work with them.
I think to kind of continue with this, it's just you can have a conversation with anyone, and if there's something you like about someone, why can't they mentor you? And I think it's just about being open-minded. Like, you can learn. There are so many really interesting ideas, and there's so many things that are allegedly dead or not. And if you're just open to having those conversations, you can learn a lot from anyone. But yeah, classic sales thing, you still got to ask, depending on how you kind of define mentor. If you want a more formal one, just ask. A lot of people are open to it.
Okay. Absolutely. All right, I've got one final question I want to ask everyone, and there's 2 questions to it. One, and I'll ask each of you, how many cold calls do you make a day? That's going to be the first part of the question. 2, when are you going to get promoted into an AE?
30 in 3 months.
30 in 3 months. Sophie?
I would say, yeah, probably about 30 as well. I used to make a lot more, but now definitely less, because I'm a bit more strategic. And I don't know, I'll have to ask Dave Bentham. He's conveniently moved away from his desk as you asked that question. So we'll see.
Max?
I've been advised by the head office that we're not allowed to disclose anything about our outreach processes, but a similar number, and I'd say 6 months.
Good man. Chloe?
Yeah, so we're aiming for 60 touch points a day, but out of calls, it's maybe, like the guys were saying, like 30 to 40. Obviously, I'm still kind of pushing for a higher number at this stage, still trying to work out, what works for me. And yeah, you'd have to speak to Matthew Blanchard, see what he says.
You're just getting started, so you've got a bit of time to go.
Yeah, a bit of time to go, yeah.
Sean?
So interestingly, I'd say my number is lower than the rest. The majority of my meetings have been booked through email. And so, as I said in my talk, I want to adjust to my results. So I'm saying probably about 20 a day, and then an additional 40 emails or something or 40 other touch points to knock that up. And then, AE, we'll say 6 months, hopefully.
Sebastian?
I try and make anywhere between 90 to 120 calls a day, and promotion being January or February, hopefully.
It's been fantastic to have you all on here. There's 15 minutes remaining. If you could go to the networking and have some fun, I'm just going to spend some time for those that want to stay on the call to show more of the membership area. I want to thank everybody for contributing today. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of confidence to go behind the scenes and plan for these talks. So congratulations to each of the speakers. Highly recommend that you go and connect with them and follow them on LinkedIn. And also, none of this would be possible without our sponsors. So thank you to our diamond partner, SalesLoft, which is the leading sales engagement platform. Titanium sponsors Gong and Drift. Platinum sponsors Varicent, who had the wonderful Chloe from. Venatrix, Aircall, MindTickle, Demo Disc. And then our gold sponsors, Cognism, Sales Psyche, Refract, and SalesWorks and Air Marketing.